Season 16 of Overwatch 2 just started, and it is one of the biggest content drops for Overwatch ever. Let's have a look. Season 16 of Overwatch 2 is finally here. On one hand, it feels like Season 15 has just flown by, and on the other, it feels like I've been waiting for this season to happen forever. It is a huge season with a lot of changes, including a whole bunch of balancing changes for the core kits and the perks, but no less than 9 heroes getting new perks. So let's not waste any time and take a look at all of the changes. I'm going to keep the balancing changes for last, and if all goes well, I'll have a separate video on all of the cosmetics later today, so stay tuned. But anyway, what is new? Well, the biggest change for this season is, of course, Stadium. I've made at least a dozen videos about this new feature, so I'm not going to dive in too deep. But for those people that spent the last 2 weeks on an abandoned island, spying on penguins, Stadium is basically a whole new game within Overwatch. A 5 vs 5 competitive mode, best out of 7, and in between rounds you get to upgrade your hero. That's about the gist of it. If you want to learn more, check out my previous videos. Now, there's also going to be a Stadium launch event called Stadium Initiation. It comes with a bunch of new challenges and of course new rewards, including a rookie Soldier 76 skin. And just for this season, if you reach the All-Star League on any role, you'll get the All-Star Juno skin. There's also a few unique loot boxes to be won. And outside of the event, you can also get an elite skin for Orisa, Genji, and Mora by reaching the elite rank in each of their roles. That last one is going to be a recurring thing every single season. But yeah, a lot of rewards to be gotten in Stadium. Now, one question I've been getting a lot is, what are the lever penalties in Stadium? And the answer is they're the same as in any other competitive mode. On top of that, if you should get banned from normal competitive or Stadium, you're immediately banned for both. So I guess you better not leave. Now, another big piece of content is, of course, Freya, the new DPS hero. She will be joining competitive on day 1. And yesterday, the Overwatch team shared that she will be the first new hero to join the Stadium roster around mid-season. We're getting a new mythic skin for Juno, Heart of Hope Juno. There are the new iridescent mythic aspects that will be added to the mythic shop for 20 mythic prisms each. Well, each. The Juno aspect was released today, the others will have to wait till May 20th. And then there's one big feature that a lot of players have been asking for, hero bans. Starting with Season 16, you'll get to pick 3 heroes that you want to ban in competitive play. Now, the order is going to be important, because that is going to add some weight to your vote. Now, when the ban phase starts, players will see what all of their teammates have picked, but not what the enemy team has picked. You won't even see who the enemy team is at that point. Now, you do not have to vote if you don't want to. However, at the end of the ban phase, all of the votes will be tallied, and 2 heroes will be banned on each team, so that is 4 in total. However, there can only be 2 heroes banned in every single role. Now, if we get a tie, it will come down to the number of votes that a certain hero got. And if that doesn't help, it is just going to be a random tiebreaker. Now, on the first glance, that seems pretty fair. I know a lot of people are not going to like the fact that it is a blind vote, but that will help to keep it all fun. And then we get to the final update for this season, the balancing changes. There are both changes for the base kits and for the perks. And like I said at the start, there's 9 heroes that are getting a brand new perk this season. Let's have a look. We're starting out at the tanks. Diva. Bonnie Stomp is now combined with Ejection Suit. It is a new minor perk called Bonnie Power. Eject grants 75 temporary overhealth, and call max damage radius is increased by 50%. The other slot is taken up with a completely new minor perk called Extended Boosters. Hitting an enemy with boosters increases the duration by 0.5 seconds. That is actually a pretty decent set of minor perks, and I think that booster might get pretty destructive. If you keep bumping into people, can I suggest a name change? Toki Pinball. No? Okay. Hazard. Off the top, increase leap slash damage from 30% to 50% to enemies above 250 health. That is a good buff. Orisa. Augmented Fusion Driver. The damage was increased from 13 to 14. Fortified now prevents Hack's ability lockout from interrupting abilities. Heat Dissipator. Increase the amount of heat reduced per headshot by 33%. Here we go again. It has become this tradition where the team will nerf Orisa to the ground in some patch, and in the next 5 patches, they'll slowly bring her up again. I mean, I don't mind that much. Orisa is not that much of a pain on my level, but I don't think some of my high-level colleagues will agree with that. But all of them are core kit changes, except for the Heat Dissipator. That is actually a minor perk. Reinhardt. Fairy Uptake was removed. There's a new minor perk called Crusader's Fire, and it will refund the charge of Fire Strike when you stun an enemy, overfilling up to 3. And Shield Slam's distance was increased by 50%. That is actually a pretty good switch. Crusader's Fire is going to be a great minor perk, especially for those more aggressive Reinhardts. You basically dish out 2 fire strikes, do an Earth Shatter, and if you hit enough people, you can follow up with 3 more fire strikes. Yeah, that enemy team is gone. You can forget about it. The shield slam distance buff is nice. Roadhog. Hog Toss was removed. There's a new minor perk called Pent Up. When Pigpen is triggered, refill 50% of Take a Breather resource, and that can overfill. Hog's Regen Exposure increases the radius from 8 to 10 meters. Previously, they had already buffed Hog Toss by adding a little more damage to his trap if you pick that perk, but they scrapped it altogether. Overfilling a Take a Breather, that is actually pretty big, especially since it is with 50%. The fact that it is also combined with a bigger radius on Hog's Regen Exposure, yeah, some supports need to start fearing for their job, that's what I'm saying. Sigma. Levitation. Jump can now be held down to hover. Alright, Flying Sigma is a thing. Winston. The base health was increased from 225 to 275, while his base armor was reduced from 250 to 200. It seems that the perks made Winston a little too strong, so they're kind of hitting him where it hurts in his survivability, and they're doing the whole swap from armor to health again. Good luck. Wrecking Ball. In 6v6 game modes, armor health was reduced from 150 to 100. Okay, I get it. Let's move over to DPS. Cassidy. Past Noon was removed. There's a new minor perk called Even the Odds. It regenerates 20 health per second for each enemy targeted by Deadeye. I guess they didn't want to reward failure, but rather give you the tools to pull off a good Deadeye. Or at least be willing to take more of a risk. Interesting. Freya. Time to earn your minor perk was reduced by 18%. The number of shots on Revjaw crossbow before max spread increases from 8 to 12. Bola shot damage and explosion radius was increased from 5 to 5.5 meters, and the bola shot damage over time was increased from 75 to 90. The team commented that after the playtest that we did a few weeks ago, they felt like Freya was falling behind a little bit, especially when it comes to lethality. And these changes should definitely help her. Now, I'm curious to see how this is going to work out once people get a grasp of her kit and actually become rather good at her. I think we might see a nerf in Season 17. Maybe mid-season. We'll see. Hanzo. The arrow drop progress is preserved while wall climbing. And for storm arrows, the projectile speed was increased from 110 to 140 meters per second. So these are all core kit changes for Hanzo. Now, I'm kind of curious to see how that whole thing with the draw progress being preserved while you're climbing is going to work out. You can have a Hanzo kind of starting to draw, climb up, and basically turn around and flip an arrow on you. So that is going to be scary. Junkrat. Aluminium frame now reveals trapped enemies to allies. And for TikTok, they changed the description. It now says concussive mine strengthens 0.5 seconds after landing, increasing damage by 50%, explosion radius by 50%, and health by 200%. Now, when it comes to aluminium frame, which initially only kind of made the trap lighter, it will now also show your whole team who's trapped in there. I'm still not a fan. May. Chilling Reach was removed. And Biting Cold was moved to the minor perks. Now the secondary fire hits slow enemies by 20% for 1.5 seconds. There is a new major perk called Deep Freeze, and when you continuously hit enemies with your primary fire, it will freeze them for a short time. Yeah, we kinda knew that this one was coming, they had teased it. Overall, Biting Cold became a minor perk and it got a nerf. It used to be able to ramp up, now it's kinda stuck on 20. And Deep Freeze, well guys, I think we just need to stock up on holy water. Soldier 76. They changed the description on Field Emergency. It now says Biotic Field's healing is increased by 100% on low health targets. So not really a change. Sarmba. Viral Efficiency was removed. There's a new minor perk called Encrypted Upload. Hack can now be used while invisible, and successful hacks increase the duration of stealth by 2 seconds. Stack Overflow was also removed. There's a new major perk called Viral Replication, and hitting a hacked enemy with virus spreads the virus to enemies within 8 meters. Look, I'm not a Sombra player, or at least I don't play her that much. But spreading the virus to enemies, that kind of sounds interesting. That sounds like it could be strong. It definitely is better than Stack Overflow. The new miner though, that is going to be so annoying for targets. But I guess that's the idea behind all of it, so yeah. Torbjorn. Overloaded turret. Now transforms into a level 3 sentry turret if overload was activated before fully constructed. I like that one. That's nice. That's the way it used to be back in the day, like we say. If I remember correctly though. Cool. Tracer. Flashback. The blinks restored reduced from 3 to 2. And Quantum Entanglement now additionally grants 20 over ammo. So that is the big blink nerf that they were talking about in a recent blog. We knew it was coming. And when it comes to Quantum Entanglement, Tracer will be getting 20 over ammo on top of the 50 over health she already had. which is not bad. Let's talk supports. Ana. The initial slow on Groggy was reduced from 75 to 50%, but it now also deals 50 damage over the duration. And for Biotic Bounce, the second bounce damage and healing was reduced from 50 to 25. Did people actually pick Groggy? I always take the Biotic Bounce. Well, I used to take the Biotic Bounce. They just nerfed it, and to be fair, Groggy sounds interesting now. We'll see. Baptiste. Assault Burst. Assault Bursts will now do instant healing but cannot critically heal low targets. The healing explosion on Biotic Launcher's secondary fire was increased from 50 to 60. The direct impact healing was increased from 20 to 30, but the maximum ammo was reduced from 13 to 10. Overall, net, it is a buff, both on his base kit and on his perks. See, Assault Burst would give him 20% extra attack speed on Regenerative Burst, but it would not do the instant healing. Now, it actually does the instant healing on top of the 20% attack speed. So that is pretty decent. Juno. Hyper Boost was removed, and Reboots was moved to the minor perks, but the duration increase on that perk was removed. There is a new major perk called Locked On, and that will reduce the cooldown of pulsar torpedoes by 1.5 seconds for every enemy it hits. So, Reboots was basically reverted to its original state and kicked up to minor perks. And it is replacing Hyper Boost, which was that extra jolt for you if you flew through your own hyperring. Now, they added a new major perk, and it actually is pretty good. It is one that you can also find in Stadium. So good choice. Life Weaver. The projectile speed on Torn Volley was increased from 80 to 100 meters per second, and the Life Weaving perk bonus healing was increased from 30 to 40. More damage and more healing for Life Weaver. I'm in. Lucio. Groovin was removed. There is a new minor perk called Beat Drop, which has Amp It Up being active during Sound Barrier. That is actually pretty big for a minor perk. I like it. I'm actually going to sacrifice the bigger boop for this one. I said bigger boop with a P at the end, not at the start. Okay, I messed up. Mercy. Angelic Recovery was removed. There's a new minor perk called Angelic Resurrection, which has Mercy gaining 100 overhealth after casting Resurrect. That is again a pretty strong minor perk. It will definitely help those Mercies that like to pull off those cheeky reses, as I call them. Zenyatta, the Orb of Discord. In 6v6 game modes, duration before expiring when target is out of sight was reduced from 3 to 1.5 seconds. For Ascendance, the perk, the jump can now be held down to hover. Duality increased the converted damage from 20 to 30%. So we had Flying Sigma earlier, now we have Flying Zenyatta. They can just kind of fly next to each other. That Discord nerf is 6v6, that is painful though. I don't like that one. But we'll see how that pans out. In any case, that was all of the changes. So much content. And you know what? Even more is coming with the mid-season update. Somewhere at the end of May, when I'm actually out of the country. Yeah, I'll just make a video over there, it's fine. But tell me, what is the first thing you're going to do when you log in Season 16? Or what was the first thing you did when you logged in for the first time in Season 16? You might be watching this video the next day. How's the future? But anyways, let me know in the comments. For now, however, that was it. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. It always helps me out. I also want to thank my patrons and YouTube members. You too can become a member over on patreon.com/theomnicpost and right here on YouTube to unlock exclusive rewards. If you have a few minutes left, maybe check out one of my other videos. But above all, take care of yourself, take care of each other. Bye bye.